Part 4. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 31. Potatoes piled up like a mountain next to the spiritual soil, and inch-high sprouts emerged from the ground. This is amazing. If she had known that the expanded spiritual soil would harvest and plant seeds by itself, she would not have bothered last night. She was so tired from digging potatoes last night that her back and waist ached, and now her whole body was still weak. She left the space and locked the door. The lights on both sides of the street were still bright, and there were fewer pedestrians. At midnight, Nangang Ziyu returned to Kanglan Inn, and the waiter hurriedly brought water and food to his room. Nangang Ziyu took off his coat and put it on the screen, and soaked his whole body in the bathtub. A pair of fox eyes slowly closed. The person who helped him find out the news said that he had seen his uncle in Jingning, but when he went there, he found nothing. Nangang Ziyu made up his mind to go to his uncle's house tomorrow and leave a letter for his uncle, asking him to meet him in Haitan Valley when he came back. Nangang Ziyu came out after bathing and saw the waiter still standing in front of the door. He waved his hand, "No need to serve, leave." "Master Nangang, a girl wearing a veil came to see you today." The waiter bowed slightly and smiled flatteringly. "Does that girl have a beauty mole between her eyebrows?" Nangang Ziyu couldn't hold back his excitement. "That's right, although I didn't see the girl's true face clearly, she must be a beautiful girl." "Congratulations, Master Nangang." Nangang Ziyu turned around and took out a silver ingot from under the pillow and threw it over, "A reward for you." "Thank you, Master." The waiter was so happy to receive the reward that he bowed and thanked him repeatedly before retreating. Nangang Ziyu didn't care about eating supper and turned to get clothes. His heart was pounding. Miss Zhang was willing to come to him on her own initiative. Did the girl treat him as a friend? He just opened the closet and his hand holding the clothes was suspended in the air. The clinic was already closed at this time. Where could he find her? Going to see her in the middle of the night would also damage her reputation. The next day, Nangang Ziyu saw a long line in front of Jishiditang. When the patients were gradually less crowded, Nangang Ziyu suppressed his excitement and looked into the clinic. It didn't matter if he looked at it, he almost rushed in with a stumble. It's really a case of searching for something without any effort. "Uncle Master." Nangang Ziyu didn't care about the strange looks from everyone, he shouted in the room with surprise, "Uncle Master! I finally found you." Lin Miaoxiao looked up at the man walking towards her, the familiar fox eyes. "Ziyu, is that you?" "The last time I saw Nangang Ziyu was 5 years ago. The once immature boy has become a handsome gentleman." Nangang Ziyu stepped forward and held Lin Miaoxiao's arm, excited and incoherent. "Master, Master," he thought you." At the end, Nangang Ziyu swallowed the unlucky words. Zhang Shiyu was confused. It turned out that the person Nangang Ziyu was looking for was Lin Miaoxiao. This was too coincidental. "Don't worry, wait until we finish seeing the patients in the room, and then go home to reminisce." Slowly Lin Miaoxiao suppressed her excitement and patted Nangang Ziyu's shoulder gently. "Oh. By the way, I'm here to see Miss Zhang today." Nangang Ziyu looked at Zhang Shiyu. Zhang Shiyu pointed to the chair next to him and motioned him to sit down and wait. Nangang Ziyu suppressed his excitement and watched Zhang Shiyu feel the patient's pulse and prescribe medicine. Her eyes were as bright and gentle as the spring sunshine. Sunan was very discerning and served Nangang Ziyu a cup of tea. After the last patient left the clinic, Lin Miaoxiao took Nangang Ziyu back to the courtyard, and Zhang Shiyu also went back with him. After sitting down, Kyoja served tea, and Zhang Shiyu listened to the two quietly. With Lin Miaoxiao's introduction, Zhang Shiyu learned that Nangang Ziyu was also a man with a tragic fate. He and his master lived in Haitan Valley. 19 years ago, his master Nangang Guyan met a group of masked men chasing several people dressed as merchants outside Haitan Valley. One of the women was holding a child about 1 year old in her arms. Nangongayan helped without hesitation, repelled the masked men, and saved the child in the woman's hands. Unfortunately, the woman was too seriously injured and could no longer speak. Nangongayan judged from the woman's mouth shape that she seemed to be calling the young master. Nangongayan inferred from the woman's dress that the woman should be the child's wet nurse. When Nangongayan took the child back to Haitan Valley, he found that the child had a jade pendant of high quality hanging around his neck. The child had no other items that could prove his identity, so Nangongayan had to name him Nangong Zayu. Is it this jade pendant? Zhang Shuya cast her eyes on Nangong Zayu's belt. No, it's this. Nangong Zayu took the jade pendant from her neck and placed it in her palm. A crescent moon was carved on the crystal clear jade pendant, and there were no more clues. After a brief greeting, Lin Miaoxiao looked at Nangong Zayu. Are you sure you don't want to continue to investigate your life experience? Nangong Zayu shook his head firmly. I almost ran all over Wanling country, but I didn't find any clues. That's it? Since I'm being hunted, I don't have to look for it. Master is worried about your safety. I'll go and send a message back. As soon as Nangong Zayu stood up, he was attracted by a beautiful child standing at the door. Is this your son? Nangong Zayu turned his head and looked at Zhang Shuyu. Tisk tisk tisk. This kid is so handsome. How many girls will he charm when he grows up? Mom, is he a bad fox? Sui Sui looked alert, walked around Nangong Zayu with short legs and walked towards Zhang Shuyu. Sui Sui, call me uncle, he is not a bad fox. Sui Sui's phoenix eyes were slightly curved, revealing a cute smile. Hello, uncle. Nangong Zayu walked over and hung the jade pendant in his hand on Sui Sui's neck. Zhang Shuyu hurriedly refused. Master Nangong, this is not allowed. Nangong Zayu said nonchalantly, it's just a jade pendant. Give it to the child to play with. If someone recognizes the origin of this jade pendant in the future, Sui Sui will know me. Take it. Zayu is right. It doesn't matter who has the jade pendant, Lin Miaoxiao said. It's not allowed. The child is still young. If it is broken, it will delay Master Nangong's reunion with his family. That's a big deal. Seeing Zhang Shuyu's firm attitude, Nangong Zayu had to take back the jade pendant and hang it back around his neck. He took another jade pendant from his belt and stuffed it into Sui Sui's hand. Sui Sui looked at Zhang Shuyu, and when Zhang Shuyu nodded, he took the jade pendant and started playing with it. He said politely, thank you, uncle. Nangong Zayu went out to send a message back to Blackpool Valley. When he came back, he was carrying a few boxes of cakes. Seeing Zhang Shuyu standing alone under a tree in the garden, with no one around, he walked towards Zhang Shuyu. The waiter said that you went to the inn to find me last night. Is there anything I can help you with? Zhang Shuyu didn't beat around the bush. I want to send some seeds to the refugees, but I don't want too many people to know, so I thought you could help me. Nangong Zayu patted his weak chest. Miss Zhang is righteous, and it happens that I am also going to go to the refugee resettlement village, so this is settled. Zhang Shuyu thought for a while and said, before dawn tomorrow, find a few carriages to the back door next to the clinic, and I will have someone deliver the goods to the backyard of the clinic. After the two agreed, Nangong Zayu stayed for lunch. With Nangong Zayu around, Suhui didn't go to the dining room to eat. After dinner, Sujin and Sunan went to the clinic to make arrangements. Sister, something big has happened. Officials have come to the clinic. Just after seeing Nangong Zayu off, Sunan ran in a hurry. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 32. Zhang Shuyu frowned slightly. Did the official say anything? Sunan gasped, no, I just asked me to call the doctor out as soon as possible. Zhang Shuyu understood clearly and pointed to the study, go and call Uncle Lin. The official is not coming to find trouble. There must be a patient who needs treatment. To be able to send out officials, he must not be an ordinary person. Zhang Shiyu put on her veil and strode towards the medical center. Seeing Zhang Shiyu coming out, Sujin hurriedly greeted her, "Sister, something big happened at Linjiang Academy." Officials called all the doctors in the street. As soon as Sujin finished speaking, he saw a man dressed as a government servant, with a knife in his belt and an anxious expression standing in the medical clinic. Zhang Shiyu signaled Sujin not to worry. She stepped forward and asked, "Excuse me, what happened in the academy?" "I am the doctor at Jishi Hall." The official did not expect that the doctor at Jishi Hall was a woman. He said concisely, "After lunch, everyone in the academy was suffering from vomiting and diarrhea, and some people fell into coma. Are you the doctor? Come with me to rescue people." The officer just stretched out his hand to pull Zhang Shiyu, but suddenly remembered that the other party was a woman, so he took his hand back. The first thought that came to Zhang Shiyu's mind was food poisoning. "Wait a moment, I'll get some medicinal materials." Before the official could say anything, Zhang Shiyu strode towards the backyard warehouse. With a thought, Zhang Shiyu took out emetics, laxatives, liver-protecting and detoxifying drugs from the space. When she came out with the medicine bag, Su Huiren and Lin Miaoxiao both heard the sound and came over. "Girl, I'll go with you." Lin Miaoxiao saw a carriage parked outside the medical clinic. Zhang Shiyu had an idea and said to Su Huiren and Sujin, "Saving one life is better than building a 7-level pagoda. The more people, the better. Let's all go together." Fortunately, Linjiang Academy was not too far away, and Zhang Shiyu and her group arrived at the academy quickly. Looking around, dozens of doctors have gathered in the academy. Judging from that posture, most of the doctors in Luoyang City might have sneaked over. When I walked into the academy, I was greeted by an unpleasant smell. The scholars were staggering around and their books were scattered all over the floor. The doctors were scratching their heads anxiously, helpless. Zhang Shiyu handed the emetics and laxatives in her hand to Sujin and Su Huiren, and urged, "Go to the kitchen and make some medicine." Then she shouted to the doctors, "Find a way to induce vomiting." After some conscious scholars heard this, they put their fingers into their mouths and pressed them to induce vomiting. A doctor came to his senses and quickly ordered someone to get some salt water. Suddenly, the doctors all started to move. Some gave the patient water, and some took out silver needles to prick acupuncture points to induce vomiting. When Lin Miaoxiao saw this, he quickly joined the rescue team. Seeing that Zhang Shiyu was calm in the face of danger, a steward from the academy hurriedly came to greet her. "What did you have for lunch today?" The steward hurriedly replied, "I just came from home. I heard that braised pork was cooked in the academy today. Take me to the kitchen and have a look." Zhang Shiyu didn't believe that braised pork could poison the scholars. When I walked into the kitchen, I saw several cooks in the kitchen who were in high spirits. It was obvious that they had not eaten any poisonous food. The steward glanced at the cook with an unkind look, and shouted loudly, "If there is any leftover braised pork today, please take it out and show it to the doctor and the official." Yes, the cook brought over a bowl of braised pork. The braised pork was brightly colored and fragrant. It was obviously made from fresh meat. Zhang Shiyu said firmly, "There is nothing wrong with this meat. I must have eaten other dishes." The well-informed officer glared at the cooks. "People's lives are at stake. Tell the truth quickly, otherwise we will all be taken back to the yamen to be tortured." The cooks were so frightened that they knelt down with a pop sound, their bodies shaking like chaff. "Sir, please spare my life. This woman will tell you the truth. Today the scholars eat roasted pork with potatoes and braised pork." The cook who spoke raised her head and glanced at the steward with a dark face. The voice was as thin as a mosquito. "The braised pork was cooked by several women alone. This bowl is reserved for the steward." The steward hurriedly defended, This vicious woman is talking nonsense. My family lives not far from the academy. How have I ever eaten here? The other cooks were so frightened that they did not dare to raise their heads. The cook who came back to the official to send a message gritted her teeth and said, "Every word of the civilian woman is true, please be careful." Then the woman jumped up and untied the sack from the bamboo basket in the corner of the room. I saw several baskets of sprouted potatoes piled in the corner of the kitchen. Zhang Xiu looked at the steward and glared angrily. "Sprouted and green potatoes are poisonous, why are they given to scholars to eat? Isn't this a disregard for human life?" The steward's eyes evaded this. "How did this potato become poisonous?" I don't know." Su Huiren stood up from behind the stove and said righteously, "You can't help but know that for anyone who purchases food for the academy, the doctor of the academy will tell you which foods are toxic." In the face of irrefutable evidence, the steward was speechless. He just bought the cheapest potatoes to line his own pockets, so why did he end up eating them? "Get up quickly and continue brewing the medicine," the official ordered the cooks who were kneeling on the ground. Suddenly, everyone was busy preparing the medicine. The officer following Zhang Xiu learned that the problem was with the potatoes purchased by the steward. He shouted outside, "Come here, take the steward back to the yamen for trial. It's unfair, it's unfair. I really didn't mean it. The potatoes are sprouting this season. If you don't believe me, you can go to the market and see." The steward also tried to quibble. A few officers came in from outside, and without saying anything, they dragged the academy manager out. Such a big thing happened, the government must arrest people and punish them. "Sister, the emetic is ready." Zhang Xiu said to the officer, "Call some people in quickly, carry the medicine out and feed it to the patient." The officer was puzzled until Sujin poured the medicine into the wooden barrel, and a disgusting smell of medicine spread. The officer understood why Zhang Xiu said that the patient was fed it. Such a smelly medicine, no one can swallow it, so it must be fed. "Ajin, you continue to watch the medicine, and ask someone to send out the laxative after it is boiled." "Uncle, come with me to save people," Zhang Xiu said and walked out, followed by Su Huiren. Under Zhang Xiu's orderly command, everyone worked together and quickly fed the medicine. There were vomiting sounds one after another at the scene, and the stench was overwhelming. "Why can't I see the headmaster?" Su Huiren and Zhang Xiu asked at the same time. An official also found that the hall and corridor were full of young scholars, and whispered, "Oh no, there is no headmaster here, go and look for him." Su Huiren took the remaining emetic in his hand and looked up at the layout of the academy. He said to Zhang Xiu, "The headmaster may be behind there." The last time he came to the academy, he didn't even enter the courtyard of the academy. He could only judge based on his own layout of the building. Passing through the corridor, several people hurriedly knocked on the door one by one. "Come, someone." A faint voice came from a room. "You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 33. Zhang Xiu had sharp hearing, and she quickly determined the location of the sound. "Quick, it's right in front." Zhang Xiu trotted a few steps and pushed open the door, and saw an old man with gray hair lying on the desk, and there was some vomit on the ground. The old man was listless and saw the visitor. He said weakly, quickly call the doctor of the academy." As the door was pushed open, the unpleasant smell spread. The official covered his nose with his sleeve. "Help him out of the house." Su Huiren put the medicine bucket in his hand under the eaves, and hurriedly stepped forward to pull up one of the headmaster's arms and put it on his shoulder. The official saw that Su Huiren was struggling to help, so he stepped forward to lend a hand. Zhang Xiu quickly moved a chair and placed it under the eaves. The headmaster was placed outside the house. The headmaster saw the official, and saw that the rest of the people were all unfamiliar faces. Just as he was about to ask, the official said, "Food poisoning has occurred in the academy. This is the doctor." Zhang Shiyu took out a teacup from the desk, and Su Huiren picked up the wooden barrel to pour medicine. "Sir, I'm sorry." Before the headmaster came to his senses, Su Huiren pinched the headmaster's jaw with one hand. With a gulp sound, a cup of medicine was poured down. The unpleasant smell of medicine, the nauseating bitter taste. The headmaster leaned forward and squatted under the eaves and vomited all over the sky. "Sir, in order to buy time, you and my uncle will help the headmaster to the corridor of the school." Zhang Shiyu saw that the headmaster had vomited bile, and he must have eaten little because of his old age. "Yes, you girl, go to the front to see how the scholars are doing, and leave the headmaster here to me." Su Huiren didn't care that the headmaster's clothes were stained with filth, and helped the headmaster to the front. Zhang Shiyu thought that the laxative should be ready. She said and walked forward quickly. "My son. What's wrong with you? The child is vomiting and having diarrhea. He has a stomachache. Arrest those bastards in the kitchen. They are trying to kill my son." Zhang Shiyu just walked out of the backyard and heard shouting and cursing in front of her, wailing and crying. Zhang Shiyu took a few quick steps and saw many women in the schoolroom and on the corridor holding scholars and wailing. It turned out that the parents of the scholars came after hearing the noise. "Stop yelling. Help feed the medicine quickly. If you delay any longer, it will really kill your son." Sujin shuttled through the crowd with a medicine bucket. The cooks were afraid that they would be beheaded if someone died, so they all carried bamboo baskets to distribute bowls to everyone and urged everyone to help feed the medicine. The officials were dizzy from the smell at the scene. I saw an official covering his nose with his sleeve, directing the other officials to fetch water to wash the vomit on the ground. The doctors and the parents of the scholars worked together and quickly poured the laxatives down. Zhang Shiyu came out, and Sujin hurriedly greeted her, "Sister, the second dose of medicine has been fed, when will the third dose be given?" Zhang Shiyu glanced at the chaotic scene, and asked instead, "Are there any unconscious patients?" "No, the scholars who fell unconscious at the beginning were fed emetics, and now they are all awake, but they are all limp on the desk." "Well, after the laxative is taken, the scholars will have diarrhea in half a quarter of an hour, and quickly asked the officials to find a way." Sujin asked again, "When will the second dose of medicine be given?" Zhang Shiyu said calmly, "No hurry, distribute the medicine in a quarter of an hour, and still give each person half a bowl." When the officials heard that the scholars would have diarrhea in a while, they immediately felt like they were facing a great enemy. "Hurry, hurry to the toilet." An official threw away the bucket in his hand and shouted loudly, "Hurry and send them to the toilet, they are about to poop on themselves." Some scholars have recovered some spirits, perhaps vaguely feeling the changes in their stomachs, and hurriedly covered their stomachs and stumbled to the toilet. "Sir, there are not enough toilets." An official ran back. As soon as he finished speaking, he heard a puff sound. Then, the sound became more and more. The smell in the air became richer. Zhang Shiyu looked over the railing and saw that the scholars were ashamed, and some simply covered their faces and squatted on the ground. Zhang Shiyu. It turns out that the ancients knew to cover their faces when they encountered embarrassing things. If there was a hole in the ground at this moment, those scholars would get in without hesitation. Zhang Shiyu turned her head and silently said in her heart, "Don't look at anything indecent." The leading official looked back and saw Zhang Shiyu standing by the wall, and walked over quickly. "Miss, what medicine did you give them? Why are they all having diarrhea?" The academy was in a mess. Seeing the filth flowing on the ground where the scholars were squatting, the official was miserable. Zhang Shiyu said calmly, "It's not enough to induce vomiting. We have to let them pull out the urine that has already reached their intestines, so as to ensure that the danger is minimized." Zhang Shiyu said and looked back at the place where the headmaster had just appeared. At this time, the headmaster's figure had long disappeared. I guess his uncle helped him to the toilet. If the headmaster did that in front of people, I guess he would be so ashamed and angry that he would bite his tongue to commit suicide. I'll go to the front hall to avoid it. You ask someone to prepare hot water and clean clothes. It's not all out of danger now. Watching Zhang Shiyu walk to the front hall, the official wanted to cry but had no tears. What's going on? Yan'an Palace. After Xiao Jingzhao heard the report, he quickly said to Xiang Yang and Xiang Song, students, they are the pillars of the country. Quickly send a doctor to come with me to check. Master, the government office has already found dozens of doctors. Xiang Yang had just returned from the government office. He did not say that he had proposed this decision to the government office. Xiang Yang was honest and loyal to Xiao Jingzhao. As long as the master was happy, he did not care about fame and fortune. Xiao Jingzhao waved his hand, you must also bring the doctor from the palace. Xiao Jingzhao was not willing to believe in the medical skills of the doctors outside. If someone was more capable than the doctor from the palace, he would not rack his brains for his elder brother's illness. Your Majesty, wait a moment, I will go right away. Seeing Xiang Song and Xiang Yang take the order and leave, Xiao Jingzhao strode out. In the academy, the front hall was filled with the smell of Chinese medicine. After the scholars finished, with the help of the doctors and officials, the scholars washed off the dirt and changed into clean clothes. The officials did not care whose clothes were whose. They took out all the clean clothes they saw and asked everyone to change into them. The scholars were pale, and they lifted their sleeves and sniffed as they walked. Everyone felt that the stench was still lingering in their noses. Don't waste time, go to the front hall and let the doctor feel your pulse, and drink the medicine while you are at it. The officials were all military generals, and they had lost their patience when they saw the delicate appearance of the scholars, and they couldn't help but urge them. At this time, in the front hall, the headmaster was sitting in the first seat, and he had changed into clean clothes. He held the armrests on both sides of the chair with both hands, trying to straighten his back. Zhang Shiyu was sitting in front of an 8 immortal table, and there were several old doctors sitting side by side with her. Seeing that scholars were coming one after another, Zhang Shiyu raised her eyes slightly, come here, feel your pulse one by one, if there is nothing wrong, take the decoction for a few days and you will be fine. Seeing Zhang Shiyu calmly and methodically arranging the doctors in the hall, the headmaster looked admiring. The headmaster couldn't help but secretly complain in his heart. Who said women are inferior to men? This woman is worth many men. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 34. The scholars came forward one by one to feel the pulse. After feeling the pulse and confirming that there was nothing serious, Zhang Shiyu pointed to the other side, go over and get the medicine to drink. Still drink, the scholar subconsciously covered his stomach with his hand. Zhang Shiyu said without raising his head, the remaining poison in your body has not been eliminated. You still have to take medicine to protect your liver, otherwise. Zhang Shiyu didn't want to continue, for fear of scaring these weak scholars. Su Huiran and Sujin took a spoon and a bowl respectively. Sujin said to the hesitant scholar, you won't have diarrhea after drinking this medicine. Some of the scholars' parents were waiting outside the hall, anxiously stretching their necks to look inside. When the scholars heard that they would not have diarrhea again, they also took a bowl of soup and drank it one after another. After drinking, some scholars left with red faces. Today, the scholars' elegance was completely lost. They just hoped that no one would remember their embarrassed appearance. Headmaster, you have to make a decision for my son. Look at how much you've done to him. He's lost a lot of weight. Zhang Shiyu was talking to the doctor sitting next to her when she heard a woman crying. Zhang Shiyu looked up and saw a plump woman with a maid, supporting a plump scholar, Walking in, the headmaster saw that the scholar was sweating profusely, and his fat body was shaking when he walked. He glared at the crying woman and said, "Your son is only 12 years old, and his waistline is almost the size of a bucket. Why are you yelling? This happened because I didn't supervise him properly. When the matter is investigated thoroughly, I will give you an explanation." 12 years old. He was so fat that Zhang Shiyu estimated in her heart that the scholar must be nearly 200 pounds. It's really unbelievable that a mother still said her son was thin. It's worrying for a growing boy. Zhang Shiyu's eyes swept across the boy's lower abdomen. Seeing the headmaster's tough tone, the woman quickly shut up and helped her son sit opposite an old doctor next to Zhang Shiyu. "Doctor, please help my son. He was unconscious at first, and then he vomited and had diarrhea. Look at his little face. It's so pale that it's scary." The old doctor pushed the pulse pillow forward and signaled the scholar to put his wrist on it. The old doctor took the pulse while observing the scholar's face. After a while, the old doctor withdrew his hand. The old doctor was impressed by the fat scholar. In the schoolroom, the scholar was the most seriously ill. He said slowly, "It's okay. He eats a little more than other students. Take a few doses of soup and rest for a few more days and he will be fine." As for the pale face, which scholar present had a good face? The headmaster's face can cry when covered with yellow paper, and he sits steadily on top to preside over the overall situation. Just as the woman was about to help her son turn around to get the medicine. "If this child can lose weight, he will definitely be a handsome young man." A clear and beautiful voice sounded, as if talking to herself. The young man looked up and looked at Zhang Shiyu in astonishment. "Can you make me lose weight?" Zhang Shiyu nodded firmly. "As long as you are willing to cooperate, it is not difficult to lose weight." The woman was anxious when she heard it. "My dear son, you are not fat. Mother thinks you are very good like this. Don't listen to the quack doctor's nonsense." Zhang Shiyu. Kindness is taken as a donkey's liver and lungs. So your mother thinks that your thinness is not limited to the age. Humph. Quack doctor? Madam, don't you know that if it weren't for the quack doctor today, you might not be able to see your son? The old doctor glanced at the woman with a bad tone. "I'm sorry, young lady. I just spoke without thinking and offended you. Please forgive me," the woman said embarrassedly. The woman was wearing gold and silver and looked vulgar. She looked like the mistress of a wealthy family. Zhang Shiyu would not argue with her. She would not be soft-hearted when it came to making money from such people. "Mom, I want to lose weight. If I lose weight, I will be as handsome as Li Yunfan." The boy looked aggrieved. Some classmates nicknamed him Fatty. Li Yunfan, who sat at the same table, was different. His classmates liked to play with him, and the teacher and the headmaster also looked at him with admiration. There were also scholars queuing behind them. Zhang Shiyu did not have time to listen to the mother and son arguing. She looked at the woman. "Madam, go back and discuss it. I am a doctor from Jishitang. If your son insists on losing weight, you can go to the clinic to find me." Because there were many doctors, they quickly took the pulse. Fortunately, the rescue was timely and the scholars were out of danger. Zhang Shiyu was still planning to do other things in her mind, and said to the headmaster, "I have something to do, so I'll leave first. The scholars still have to continue taking detoxifying and liver-protecting medicine. If there are not enough herbs, you can send someone to Jishitang to get some." Lin Miaoxiao stood up and waved to Su Huiren and Sujin, who had finished distributing the medicine. "The clinic still needs people, let's go back too." Looking at Su Huiren, the headmaster's eyes were full of gratitude. He clasped his fists lightly. "Thank you, I will come to thank you another day." Su Huiren was neither humble nor arrogant, and he and Sujin bowed to the headmaster and said goodbye. "I used to be a scholar, you are too polite, and today is thanks to you, girl, I dare not take credit for it." Every move was polite and restrained. The headmaster gave Su Huiran an approving look. He looked at the official in the hall and said, "Please help me send Miss Zhang and the others back to the clinic, and bring back the antidote. I will send someone to pay the consultation fee tomorrow." The doctors watched them leave and sighed. I never thought that a woman could come up with a prescription to save people. Yes. Many girls stay in the backyard after learning a little bit, but few dare to open a clinic. This girl is really extraordinary. Ahem, everyone, the accountant of the academy is not here today. Please leave your address. I will have someone come to thank you and pay the medical fee another day. The headmaster signaled the servant who came from home after hearing the news to take out the pen, ink, paper, and inkstone and put them on the 8 immortal table. Outside the academy, Xiao Jingzhao jumped off the horse first and walked towards the academy quickly. Suddenly, he saw the official from the yamen standing in front of a carriage, and a charming figure entered the carriage. Xiangyang followed Xiao Jingzhao's line of sight and saw the official leaving with the carriage. Xiangyang scratched the back of his head in confusion. "Master, where are they going?" Xiao Jingzhao exhaled, "The scholars should be fine." After entering the academy, Xiao Jingzhao listened to the headmaster's account of what happened. The headmaster was trying to kneel down and plead guilty, but Xiao Jingzhao gave him a look. Xiang Song held the headmaster's arm and said, "He has always been upright in his work. You are also a victim. The prince will not blame you. Forget the kneeling ceremony today. Get well soon and rectify the unhealthy trends in the academy." Xiao Jingzhao learned that the steward had been detained. He waved to Xiangyang and said, "All the people in the kitchen should be taken back to the yamen. This prince will personally try them." Then he ordered Xiang Song, "Jishidang has made great contributions in treating the scholar. You should order a silk banner and send it with the reward another day." None of the doctors Xiao Jingzhao brought were used. In front of Jishidang, Nanggong Ziyu was anxious when he learned that Zhang Shiyu was taken away by the official. Until he saw the figure of the official, he strode up to greet him. "Miss Zhang, you are back at last." After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 35. Zhang Shiyu got off the carriage, and Sunan also came up to meet her. Seeing that Zhang Shiyu was safe and sound, both of them breathed a sigh of relief. Lin Miaoxiao led the official to quickly walk into the clinic to get medicine. Nanggong Ziyu pulled Zhang Shiyu aside and asked, "Did the official make things difficult for you?" Food poisoning occurred in the academy, but fortunately the scholars are all safe and sound. Seeing Nanggong Ziyu's nervous look for them, Zhang Shu felt grateful. Sujin winked at Sunan, and Sunan quickly brought a cup of tea over. "Sister, you are tired, drink some tea to moisten your throat." As soon as Zhang Shu took the teacup, her mind was full of the horrible scenes in the academy. She didn't drink a single sip, turned around and put down the teacup. "Nanan, I'm not thirsty, Master Nanggong and I have something to go out for." Zhang Shu went back to the yard and harnessed the carriage. Nanggong Ziyu jumped on the shaft of the carriage in a chic manner. "Miss Zhang, please sit in the carriage." "How can you drive the carriage?" Along the way, Zhang Shu talked about her plan. Nanggong Ziyu drove the carriage straight to the East Market. The people who bought and sold in the East Market had dispersed, and only the grocery store outside the market was still open. Nanggong Ziyu suggested, "It doesn't matter if we are one day late. I will come to the market to collect potatoes tomorrow morning." Zhang Shuyu's eyes sparkled, and she looked at the grocery store. Those who sell potatoes are not necessarily farmers, but perhaps small vendors. If it is a farmer, it is not cost-effective to go to the city to sell a little bit of vegetables every day. Zhang Shuya got off the carriage and walked to the grocery store. After asking around, she really got some useful information. The grocery store owner said that there were many vendors living in the alley behind the market, and some of them were reselling vegetables. Zhang Shuya decided to try her luck. The alley was too narrow for the carriage to enter. Nangong Ziyu handed the reins to Zhang Shiyu. Just wait here, I'll go in and take a look. If there are goods, take as many as you can and ask them to send them to the clinic as soon as possible. After a while, Nangong Ziyi came back with a brisk pace. He lifted his robe and sat on the shaft of the cart. Guess what? Zhang Shiyu. His face was as smiling as a flower, and he asked her to guess. You tell me. How many are there? Nangong Ziyu held up 2 fingers. Not many, at least 20 carts. I have just checked the goods, they are starting to sprout, just right for planting. Nangong Ziyu and his master live in Blackpool Valley. The disciples in Blackpool Valley also grow vegetables in addition to practicing. The two bought another cart sack at the grocery store. Not long after returning to the clinic, vendors delivered goods. Seeing the potatoes piled up like a hill in the backyard, Zhang Shiyu paid the money and asked the vendor to deliver them the next day. That night, the wind blew the leaves outside the house and rustled. Before midnight, there was a muffled thunder, and the night rain came. The drizzle beat the leaves like a lullaby. Sushui followed Shui Sheng for a run during the day, and a few muffled thunders did not wake him up. Zhang Shiyu, who had a good sleep, handed the sleeping Sushui to Kaiju, and she came to the clinic alone. She took out the sack from the warehouse, and the sack quickly swelled up with a thought. After a while, there were twice as many sacks in the yard. The gray sky was still drizzling, and she flashed into the space. The sweet potato vines were already several feet long, and she picked up a sickle to cut a handful of sweet potato vines. After leaving the space, she moved her mind, and the sweet potato vines were like crazy growing vines, and soon covered the sacks on the ground. It turns out that as long as you move a little, you can harvest with your mind. After doing all this, Zhang Shiyu was about to sit in front and take a nap. Bang, bang, bang. There was a knock on the door. Seeing that it was still dark and the drizzle was continuing, Zhang Shiyu walked quickly to the back door. Mr. Nangong, is that you? Miss Zhang, you're really early. Hearing the familiar voice, Zhang Shiyu opened the back door. Mr. Nangong is really undeterred by wind and rain. You came just as the man who delivered the sweet potato vines left. Nangong Ziyi used his sleeves to cover Zhang Shiyu's head. Go to the house quickly, just leave it to them. As soon as the two took a step back, more than a dozen strong men walked in. Boss, have all the goods in this yard been moved out? Asked the man walking in front. Back under the eaves, Zhang Shiyu retreated to a distance of 2 steps away from Nangong Ziyu without leaving a trace. The customs here are more open than those in the capital, so she'd better pay attention to it. Put the potatoes at the bottom. There are sweet potato vines on top. They can't be pressed. After saying that, she smiled at Nangong Ziyu. I happened to meet a vendor selling seedlings yesterday, so I bought some. The weather was good last night. This rain came at the right time. Half an hour later, Zhang Shiyu watched Nangong Ziyu leave with more than 10 carts carrying goods. For 2 consecutive days, Nangong Ziyu delivered seedlings and potatoes to the refugee resettlement village. In order to avoid the occurrence of potato poisoning, he specifically told the villagers that potatoes that sprouted and turned green should not be eaten. The news of Linjiang Academy has been widely spread, and the villagers all know it. With the rice and flour sent by Nangong Ziyu, the villagers also solved their urgent needs. The local head of the village also obeyed the order issued by King Yan'an, divided the land for the villagers, and allowed the villagers to reclaim wasteland freely. With seedlings, the refugees can also cultivate in time and live and work in peace and contentment. They are grateful to Nangong Ziyu. Nangong Ziyu originally wanted to tell everyone that these potatoes and seedlings were all donated by Jishidayan. Thinking of Zhang Shiyu's repeated admonition that a big tree attracts wind, and too much attention will attract jealousy, he really didn't dare to mention that Jishitang also donated. In the past 2 days, The newly opened Jishitang has become the focus of everyone's discussion, and it has almost become a hot headline in Luoyang City. Everyone is talking about the rescue incident of Jishitang turning the tide at Linjiang Academy. Many parents of scholars came to Jishitang to express their gratitude. Sheng Sheng, you have to eat more meat and less cakes. Sushui looked at the piles of cakes on the table and was so worried that her face was almost wrinkled into a bun. Shui Sheng smiled and said, "It's a waste if you don't eat. And you eat so little, and master doesn't eat sweets." Some of the parents of those scholars sent banners, and some sent cakes. None of them came empty-handed. Sheng Sheng, don't leave, okay? If you stay, I will let you have cakes every day. Sushui pulled the corner of Shui Sheng's clothes and shook it. Shui Sheng squatted down and hugged Sushui. "Sushui, I don't want to leave you and Aunt Yu, but I have to listen to master's arrangements. Once a teacher, a father for life. You will understand when you grow up." Shui Sheng's heart actually wants a mother like Aunt Yu. What? The doctor of Jishitang is a woman. Xiao Jingzhao's cold phoenix eyes suddenly widened, revealing an expression of disbelief. There are also female doctors in the backyards of the wealthy families in Luoyang City, and there are also women who know some medical skills in the homes of ordinary people. Most of those women are midwives. In Xiao Jingzhao's impression, this is the first woman to open a shop on the street. "Master, the doctor went to the academy for follow-up today. The scholars are basically all well. I will send the banner over now." Xiang Song looked at Xiao Jingzhao with an inquiring look. The bounty for Jishitang. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 36. Xiao Jingzhao opened the drawer and took out 5 banknotes and pushed them in front of Xiang Song. She has the ability to save everyone from danger. She has some real skills. I heard that she almost doesn't get paid for treating refugees. This person has medical ethics and should be respected. Reward. Xiang Yang looked on and was speechless. The master is so generous, a total of 500 taels of silver. If he had known this, he should have given up martial arts and studied medicine. Maybe he would have cured the eldest young master's disease by studying medical skills with all his heart. When he was in a daze, Xiang Song poked his arm and said in a low voice, "You are almost crying, don't be stunned, come with me to get the banner." Xiang Yang. "I'm not, I don't have it, I just want to share my master's worries." Xiao Jingzhao seemed not to notice the little moves between the two of them. He put down the pen in his hand and said to Xiang Song, "You speak sharply. When you see that girl, tell her about the eldest young master's illness." Xiang Yang. "Am I stuttering?" After finishing speaking, Xiao Jingzhao felt that something was wrong, and he added, "Bring her back to the palace to see the eldest young master. If she can cure the eldest young master's disease, I will reward her heavily." Xiang Song and Xiang Yang took the order and left. Jishitang has become famous in recent days, and there is an endless stream of people coming to seek medical treatment. Zhang Shiyu took the pulse and prescribed the prescription. Lin Miao grabbed the medicine. Sujin and Sunan were responsible for packaging the medicine, and Su Huiran was responsible for collecting the consultation fee. When the mountain chief came to the medical center, he saw a long queue outside the door. It was not until noon that the number of patients seeking treatment in the hospital gradually decreased. After sending away the last patient, Su Huiran looked up and looked out the door, and saw the mountain chief walking in with a smiling boy. After several days of recuperation, Shan Chang's body has recovered. Miss Zhang has superb medical skills and a kind heart. I came here to express my gratitude. As the mountain chief said, he motioned to the boy to present a banner and the medical fee. Sujin took over the banner and saw the strong and powerful characters on it, which read "Exquisite hands rejuvenate, Noble medical ethics, and it was signed Linjiang Academy. Sujin exclaimed in amazement, the pen and ink are horizontal, the branches are flowing, and the water is flowing. This must be the calligraphy of Lord Shan Chang. Suhuiren hurriedly invited the mountain chief to take a seat. Sunan turned around with great discernment and went to Porti. Zhang Shuyu also came up to greet him. She gave a slight blessing to the mountain chief. I have troubled the mountain chief to personally give you a calligraphy treasure. Our Jishi Hall is extremely honored. You're welcome, Miss Zhang. If you hadn't come up with a treatment plan, the consequences would have been disastrous, the mountain chief said, looking at Sujin and thinking, this child is really not simple. Anyone who could be the headmaster of Linjiang Academy had a Jinshi background, and the original owner's handwriting was also good. Zhang Shuya could also tell at a glance that the banner was not written by an ordinary master. Suhuiren also echoed, it is really brilliant to have Mr. Shan Chang's calligraphy hanging in the hall. Sir Shanda's calligraphy is somewhat like the style of Qinglingshan people. Mr. Su, do you know people from Qingling Mountain? At this time, Sunan came over with tea, and Suhuiren took the tea and placed his hands on the table to the right of the mountain leader. In the year when I became a Jinshi, a native of Qinglingshan served in the Hanlin Academy. I was fortunate enough to work with him for some time. Suhuiren said with a look of regret on his face, it's a pity that the world is in chaos, and it is difficult for Qingling Mountain Chief to be reused despite his talent. He resolutely left, indulged in the mountains and rivers, and lived his life as a leisurely cloud and wild crane. Are you also a Jinshi? Are you from the capital? The mountain leader was so excited that he leaned forward. Looking at the elegant Suhuiren, the mountain leader felt very cordial. I'm pedantic and incompetent, and unwilling to join in others' misdeeds. Isn't that why I was demoted back to my place of origin, suffered a drought, and became a refugee? Suhuiren said with a self-deprecating smile. I admire Brother Su for putting aside his wealth and honor and taking the path of Qingliu. The people of Qingling Mountain are also gentle people who do not love the powerful. Fortunately, I left the capital and established myself in Luoyang thanks to the blessing of King Yan'an. When they were in the academy, they were busy rescuing people and didn't say a few words. They said goodbye today. The more they chatted, the more they talked, like old friends after a long separation. The mountain chief and Suhuiren had a pleasant conversation. It turned out that the people from Qinglingshan and the mountain chief were classmates. When the mountain chief saw that Sujin and Sunan had similar facial features to Suhuiren, he asked, are these two children your children? It's the dog below. Immediately afterwards, Suhuiren introduced Lin Miaoxiao to the mountain leader. When he talked about Zhang Shuyu, tears welled up in his eyes. This child and brother Lin are both nobles of my family. Without her, my family would probably have to go to the refugee resettlement village. My uncle killed my little girl. If my aunt hadn't helped me back then, my little girl and Xiuju wouldn't even have a place to stay. Zhang Shuyu said this just to comfort Suhuiren. She didn't want the Su family to feel that they owed her. She had space at her disposal, so it would be easy to establish herself wherever she wanted. Besides, the Su family cared a lot about her, and she became as close as family in the end. During the chat, the mountain leader learned that both Sujin and Sunan had read books, especially when he learned that Sujin had read the Analects of Confucius. He looked appreciative. Can we let these two children study at Luoyang Academy? Suhuiren didn't expect such an unexpected surprise. He waved to Sujin and Sunan excitedly, come here and thank Lord Shanda, you finally have a place to study. It is a rare opportunity to study in Linjiang Academy. Thank you, Mr. Shanda. Seeing the two brothers bowing and thanking Lord Shanda, Zhang Shuyu's lips curled up slightly. After Suhuiren saw off the mountain chief, he came back cheerfully. Girl, Master Shanda specifically told me when he got on the carriage that I would take Sujin and Sunan to the academy tomorrow. A hint of surprise flashed across Zhang Shiyu's eyes. Congratulations, uncle, you must go tomorrow. That's right, the headmaster invited me, how can I not go? I just invited the headmaster to have lunch. The headmaster said that the academy has been busy recently and asked me to meet again another day. Lin Miaoxiao looked at Su Huiren, who was very happy, and he said, let's go back to the courtyard to have lunch. If another patient comes later, you won't be able to leave. Su Jing closed the door of the clinic and strode towards the courtyard behind the street. Lin Miaoxiao deliberately fell behind and said to Zhang Shiyu, who was walking behind, girl, you, take us to Linjiang Academy to save people, is this the effect you want? Zhang Shiyu coughed lightly and said seriously, saving a life is better than building a 7-story pagoda. I didn't think so much. You are very smart, but you can't hide it from me. Your plan is far more than sending Sujin and Sunan to the academy, right? Zhang Shiyu. It is said that old ginger is spicy, and he saw through it. When Ansu learned that her 2 sons could study in Linjiang Academy, she was so happy that she went to the kitchen to add another egg fried with chives. She had confidence in both children. This autumn, Sujin would definitely pass the exam. Sunan quickly finished a bowl of rice, picked up the key and went to the clinic. After dinner, Su Hui went to prepare pens, ink, paper and inkstone for the 2 brothers in silence. After Ansu and Qiuju washed the dishes, she took off her apron and walked towards the west wing where Zhang Shiyu lived. When I entered the room, I saw Shui Sheng and Su Shui sitting at the table reading. Shui Sheng had already learned to write the characters in the 3-character classic. Su Shui was too young, so Zhang Shiyu only let him learn to read and didn't let him learn to write in a hurry. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 37. When Zhang Shiyu saw Ansu coming over, the joy on her face faded. Auntie, don't worry, I will take care of Sujin and Sunan's repairs. I'm not worried about Shuxiu, I'm worried about you being tired. Without the help of Sujin and Sunan in the medical clinic, no one would do the job of grinding the medicine. This was what Ansu was most worried about. Ansu thought that the medical clinic had a lot of income these days, so she took Zhang Shiyu's hand and said, the girl's hands are her second face. You'd better hire a medicine boy for the job of grinding medicine. Auntie is right. I will put up a notice tomorrow and hire a doctor and 2 medicine boys. Lin Miaoxiao was leaving in a few days. He said it was inconvenient to take Shui Sheng with him, so he asked Shui Sheng to follow Nangang Ziyu back to Blackpool Valley first. After a while, Zhang Shiyu met Nangang Ziyu on her way to the medical clinic. Nangang Ziyu was wearing a lake blue dress today, with a tall and straight figure facing the wind, and a smile on her face like a spring breeze. He stood by the street, standing out from the crowd. Seeing Zhang Shiyu approaching wearing a veil, the breeze lifted a corner of the veil, revealing her delicate jawline. He waved and shouted, Miss Zhang, what a coincidence, I met you just after I came out. Zhang Shiyu glared at him, I walk this section of the road 800 times every day, and I met you as soon as I came out of the alley. Isn't it a coincidence? Hey! Miss Zhang is so funny. When will you return to Blackpool Valley? Zhang Shiyu didn't mince words. After asking about the time, she prepared some clothes and books for Shui Sheng. Uncle Master asked me to move into the guest room in the front yard for a while. I'm here to ask your opinion. Is it suitable for me to move there? Nangang Ziyu looked at Zhang Shiyu with inquiring eyes. That's Uncle Lin's yard. He invited you to live in it because he wants you to get closer to Shui Sheng. Just move there. There's no need to ask me about this. On the day Nangang Ziyu found Lin Miaoxiao also confessed to everyone that the yard belonged to his family. He didn't elaborate on where his family had gone. From Nangang Ziyu's few words, we learned that Lin Miaoxiao suffered a disaster, and the person who did it was the queen's maternal family. Okay, I listened to Miss Zhang, I will move there tomorrow. Nangong Ziyu was happy in her heart, but her face was as calm as water, with only those fox eyes shining with a cunning light. The two of them stood side by side and soon arrived at the medical center while talking. I saw two men in well-dressed suits in the medical clinic, with swords slung around their waists. Nangong Ziyu held Zhang Shiyu's arm behind her back and looked at the two of them warily. Are you? Xiang Song cupped his hands and clasped his fists. Don't be nervous, we are here to deliver the banner and silver reward on the orders of the Crown Prince. Zhang Shiyu looked confused. The Prince of the Palace has never interacted with me, so why does he reward me? Although Zhang Shiyu is obsessed with money, a gentleman loves money and acquires it in a wise way, especially for those powerful people who suddenly appear, and they are afraid of burning their hands when holding money. The girl saved so many people at Linjiang Academy, so she deserves a reward, Xiang Song explained. When Nangong Ziyu saw that he was not a bad person, he let go of Zhang Shiyu's hand. Xiang Song raised his eyes and took a quick look at the mysterious female doctor. The vermilion beauty mark is embedded in the middle of the eyebrows, the eyebrows are picturesque, and the clear eyes are like mountain streams. Xiang Song secretly praised her. She was such a beautiful woman from Guanyin, especially that beauty mark, which looked a bit familiar. Zhang Shiyu now exuded an aura that was not found in women in the boudoir, and neither Xiang Song nor Xiang Song thought about it at all. Xiang Yang handed the banner to Sujin, quickly glanced at Zhang Shiyu, and then turned his attention to the densely hung banners on the wall. Xiang Song took out the banknote from his arms and presented it with both hands. The prince represents the wishes of the Yan'an Palace, and I hope the girl will accept it. When Zhang Shiyu looked at the banknotes with a face value of 100 taels, she could tell at a glance that they were 500 taels. She took it with both hands without being humble or condescending. Thank you, Your Majesty. She wouldn't say much if she was polite. In her profession, it was really difficult to say that the prince was sick, so she could just give such polite words. The villain is here today as ordered. There is another matter that I have to ask the girl and the villain to go to the palace. Is your prince sick? Zhang Shiyu blurted out. Sure enough, there is no such thing as a free lunch. Young lady has misunderstood. He is not the crown prince, but the eldest young master of the palace. Zhang Shiyu glanced at the patients waiting to be seen in the medical clinic. There were fewer people than in the morning. She said to Xiang Song, no problem, you guys wait outside, I'll be out right away. I'll go with you, Nangong Ziyu said firmly and could not refuse. Sister, let me go with you. Sujin put down what he was doing and walked out of the counter. No need, King Yan'an is a man who cares about the world. The palace is naturally not a dragon's pond and a tiger's den. It's enough to have young Master Nangong go with him. Su Huiran also felt that what Zhang Shiyu said was reasonable, and he added, go early and come back early. Uncle, tell my aunt that you don't have to wait for me to eat. I don't know the severity of the illness of the young master of the palace. I may come back a little later. Zhang Shiyu picked up the medicine box and walked out. I'll get it. Nangong Ziyu took the medical kit and put it on her shoulder. Xiang Song and Xiang Yang came on horseback. While Zhang Shiyu was talking, Xiang Song hired a carriage on the street. Seeing the two of them getting on the carriage one after another, Xiang Yang murmured to Xiang Song, the female doctor and his wife have such a good relationship, they have to follow them for a while. Xiang Song rolled his eyes at him, don't stand and talk without hurting your back. If you have a wife who has excellent medical skills and looks better than a fairy, you will be more nervous than him. If I have such a beautiful wife, no, if I see such a beautiful girl, I will give it to the master first. Xiang Song rolled his eyes at him, patted the horse's back and led the way in front of the carriage. He was tired and didn't want to talk to a fool. What kind of person is the master? Does he need this fool to give up his wife? Xiang Yang looked at Xiang Song's back and scratched the back of his head in confusion. Did I say it wrong again? If there is a good thing, of course it will be given to the master first. Is there anything wrong with this? In the carriage. Nangong Ziyu put the medicine box on his knees and looked at Zhang Shiyu sitting opposite him and said, I have also heard rumors about the eldest young master of the palace. There are notices posted in the palace from time to time, but no doctor in Liang City dares to uncover the notice. You mean his disease may be very difficult? Zhang Shiyu didn't care. Take away the word maybe. The palace can't find a doctor even if it pays a lot of money. Can it be an ordinary disease? Speaking of a large reward, Zhang Shiyu's eyebrows were bent with smiles. The income has been quite good these days. The silver rewarded by the prince today is enough for her to open another shop. If she can cure the illness of the eldest young master of the palace, the silver reward will be enough for her to do many things. Seeing Zhang Shiyu's calm expression, Nangong Ziyu asked, Are you sure? 90% sure. Posting notices is not a matter of 1 or 2 days. It should be a chronic disease that will not kill people. We have to see the patient to make a conclusion. Before Zhang Shiyu finished speaking, the carriage shook, and Nangong Ziyu hurriedly reached out to help her. The girl is here, Xiang Song shouted outside. At this time, a burst of rapid horse hoof sounds sounded. Zhang Shiyu lifted the curtain and walked down. Looking up and following the sound of horse hooves, she saw the backs of several men riding away on horses. The man in the lead had black hair tied up high, and a black cloak fluttered behind him, looking majestic. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 38. Xiang Yang looked at the figure disappearing around the corner, and asked Xiang Song, Master is going to the city gate. Did something happen outside the city? Xiang Song quickly turned his horse's head and said, Take the girl into the palace. Xiang Song left without saying a word. Girl please. Outside Prince Yanan's mansion, it is surrounded by pink walls and shaded by green trees. A plaque hangs on the tall doorway. The big gilded characters Yanan Prince's mansion, with flying dragons and phoenixes, are majestic. In front of the door, 2 mythical beasts that control the house stand on each side. The concierge was dressed as a guard. Seeing Xiang Yang leading the doctor in, the concierge was used to it and opened the door that was about to be closed without asking a word. Walking into the first flower gate, and then walking towards the hand-painted veranda, you will see a green garden full of exotic flowers and plants, fragrant and fragrant. The cloisters, corridors, rockery and waterside pavilions are simple and elegant, and every 10 steps have a view, which is of extraordinary style. The palace was too big, so Zhang Shiyu followed Xiang Yang through twists and turns to a courtyard. Zhang Shiyu raised her head and looked up. The plaque in front of the courtyard door said Ziozuxuan, which showed that it was where the man lived. The courtyard is as its name suggests. In a corner of the courtyard, there is a lush monstera plant. A gust of wind blows and the bamboo leaves make a rustling sound. The scenery in the courtyard is well proportioned, and the monstera symbolizes health and longevity. Each scene and object shows how much the Yan'an king and his wife love their eldest son. Please wait a moment, both of you. The younger one will have someone come in immediately to report. The courtyard door was open. Zhang Shiyu and Nangong Ziyu were also people who knew the rules. They followed Xiang Yang into the courtyard door and stopped in front of the small garden. Just as Xiang Yang was about to walk forward, he saw a maid running out in a hurry. It's not good, the eldest young master is coughing up blood again. Please call the doctor quickly. Come on, come on. Didn't I bring the doctor here? Xiang Yang became anxious and hesitated again. Seeing that the situation was urgent, Zhang Shiyu said, I am the doctor, please lead the way. The maid was slightly stunned. This was the first time for a girl to be found in the palace. She said to Xiang Yang, Master Guard, could you please bring the doctor in? I'll call the doctor here. Every time a familiar doctor comes into the palace, the doctors in the palace will look on, not daring to make any mistakes. As soon as I walked into the small hall door, I heard a violent coughing sound coming from the room. Master, please be patient. Xianghua went to call the doctor. The doctor will be here soon. Xiao Gaizi, stop pouring water and go and inform the princess that the eldest young master's old illness has returned. In the room, there were rapid footsteps and the maid's crying voice. A boy ran out of the house. If Nangang Ziyu hadn't quickly grabbed Zhang Shiyu's hand, the boy almost bumped into Zhang Shiyu. I'm sorry, I'm in a hurry to call the princess. The servant bowed slightly and continued to run outside without even having time to lift his head. In the room, on a small couch, a man lowered his head and coughed violently. The handkerchief in his hand was covering his lips. The maid beside him was rubbing the man's back anxiously. The handkerchief covered half of his face, and under his sharp eyebrows, his eyes were half downcast. The hand holding the handkerchief was slightly pale, the cough made his face flush, and the veins on his temples were slightly bulging. Young master, the doctor is here. Xiang Yang quickly moved the small stool beside him to the small couch. Girl, please show me to the young master. It's a good day, it seems a little serious. Seeing that Xiang Yang was so anxious that he was talking incoherently, Zhang Shiyu took the medical kit and put it on the table. She quickly took out her stethoscope and walked over. The man stopped coughing and the maid took the handkerchief from his hand. Zhang Shiyu caught a glimpse of thick phlegm on the handkerchief, and the thick phlegm was mixed with bloodshot streaks. Water. The man's voice was weak, as if it was squeezed out of his throat. The moment the man raised his head, Zhang Shiyu was stunned. Those phoenix eyes were like the stars and the moon shrouded in dark clouds, without any sparkle and life. The man is like a Yandere beauty, and his exquisite facial features are 5 points similar to those of Sui Sui. This. Was he the person she saw last time? Girl, our young master was fine a few days ago, but after a rain, he fell ill. Seeing Zhang Shiyu holding a bright object in her hand, the maid was talking about the cause of her illness. Have you been to the capital 4 years ago? The man put down the water glass in his hand and shook his head slightly. Girl, are you really the doctor? Seeing that Zhang Shiyu's question had nothing to do with her illness, the maid blurted out her questioning words without caring whether she would offend the doctor. She was worried that the charlatan came here for the huge reward on the notice. Miss Luer must not be rude. Miss Zhang is not an ordinary doctor. Xiang Yang was not in a hurry now and spoke fluently. He himself couldn't explain why, but seeing Zhang Shiyu's calm and unhurried look, he inexplicably trusted her. When did the young master have this disease? Zhang Shiyu felt her pulse calmly through a layer of brocade. I heard from the princess that the eldest young master has been ill since childhood. As for the specific time, I don't know. Xiaokong had given up hope for his illness for a long time. He took over Luer's words and said, about 1 year old, he keeps coughing, and each cough lasts for 2 months. Regardless of whether the doctor can cure himself, Xiaokong feels that answering every question is the proper demeanor of a gentleman. Zhang Shiyu looked around, heard and asked, then picked up the stethoscope in her hand. Master, please open your clothes a little so I can check the cause of the disease. Miss, you have already taken the pulse, why do you need to check again? After all, there is a difference between men and women, this is not appropriate. Don't be rude to the doctor, Xiaokong shouted lightly and untied the belt of his shirt. Nangang Ziyu hurriedly stepped forward. Miss Zhang, how do you want to check? I will help you. Xiang Yang opened his mouth for a long time without closing it. It turned out that he had misunderstood. They were not husband and wife. Great, when the prince comes back, he must tell the prince what kind of beauty Miss Zhang is. No, Miss Zhang was staring at the eldest young master in a daze just now. Could she be attracted to the eldest young master? The eldest young master's body is probably not worthy of it. Just when Xianjiang's brain was thinking wildly, he heard hurried footsteps outside the door. Eldest young master. Kong your illness has recurred, what should I do? Zhang Xiu turned around and saw a middle-aged man carrying a wooden box and following a beautiful woman in brocade clothes. Zhang Xiu stood up and bowed slightly, "Meet Princess Yanan." Princess Yanan went straight to the small couch. "Kong what can I do to make you recover? I heard that you are sick again, and my heart is in knots." Seeing Princess Yanan rushing to Xiaokong on the small couch, Nangang Ziyu took a step back and stood behind Zhang Xiu. Princess Yanan's tears rolled in her eyes. Xiaokong held back a cough and squeezed out a smile. "Don't worry, mother, this is an old problem. Drinking soup for 2 months will naturally relieve it." "Son." Mother heard that a female doctor came to Luoyang City. Mother will send someone to invite her. Princess Yanan was in the back house, so she would always hear the news a little later. "Princess, the female doctor has been invited." Hearing Xianjiang's words, Princess Yanan let go of her son's hand and turned around, and saw the beautiful Zhang Xiu standing beside her. "You are?" "I am a doctor from Jishatang." Zhang Xiu bowed her eyes. "When I raised my head, I saw another pair of phoenix eyes." You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cub and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 39. When their eyes met, Zhang Xiu was stunned by the appearance of Princess Yanan. Her phoenix eyes seemed to be washed by the water of the Milky Way, and there was a layer of mist in her eyes. She was elegant and graceful, and her charm remained. Such a stunning beauty, the 3,000 beauties in the harem of the emperor in the capital were eclipsed by her. But her appearance was too similar. Princess Yanan was also stunned by Zhang Xiu's beauty. "This is not a miracle doctor, it is simply a goddess descending to the earth. Are you really the girl who saved the scholar in Linjiang Academy?" Princess Yanan asked in disbelief. "It is my daughter, please move aside, I will continue to diagnose the young master. I have heard of the name of the miracle doctor for a long time. I have the record of the young master's symptoms here." The palace doctor arched his hand to Zhang Xiu and hurriedly retreated to get the disease log. The princess also realized that she blocked Zhang Xiu's diagnosis, so she hurried to the side. Zhang Xiu handed one end of the stethoscope to Nangang Ziyu, "Put this on the chest of the young master, from top to bottom, and move only when I tell you to. Miss Zhang, you can just pull my wrist and move." Nangang Ziyu almost said that the young master Xiao was being hypocritical, and that he didn't mind seeing a doctor when he was sick. He was almost terminally ill, so what was the difference between men and women? He wished he could get sick, and the young lady could check him from head to toe. In order to check it carefully, Zhang Xiu really grabbed Nangang Ziyu's wrist and auscultated her from the trachea to the chest cavity, and from the front chest to the back. The maids and servants stood aside and dared not breathe. Seeing Zhang Xiu's unique way of checking the disease, everyone had a glimmer of hope in their eyes. Speaking of the mysterious female doctor, the maids and servants had also heard of it. Princess Yanan stared at the shiny thing moving around on her son's body. Listening to the female doctor telling her son to breathe in and out, she was so nervous that she clutched her handkerchief and held her breath. After the examination, Zhang Xiu put away the stethoscope. "Does the young master feel shortness of breath when he is not sick?" "Yes, sometimes he feels shortness of breath, especially when he is emotionally excited or walks too fast, the feeling will be more obvious," Xiaokong said as he gathered his clothes, and Luer beside him hurriedly went up to help him tidy up his shirt. "The frequent attacks are mostly in spring and autumn, and catching a cold in winter will also cause coughing." Zhang Xiu's tone was calm. Princess Yanan and everyone else widened their eyes. Xiao Gai's eyes twinkled with stars. "Miss is really a goddess in the world. My young master's illness is exactly the same as what the miracle doctor said." Zionko also echoed, "Miss is right. If the young master doesn't catch a cold in winter, he will be fine." In spring and autumn, no matter how carefully the servants serve him, my master will inevitably suffer. Zhang Xiu looked around and saw several pots of lilies in full bloom in front of the window, and a faint fragrance lingered in the room. The lotus hollow bronze incense burner in the corner of the room also emitted green smoke. Zhang Xiu said lightly, "Move out all the fragrant things in the room. These fragrances are harmful to the health of the eldest young master." Princess Yanan didn't ask why. She waved her hand quickly, "Quick, clean up the flower pots and incense burners." Xianko, Luer and the maids who followed the princess quickly cleaned up all the fragrant things in the room, even the mosquito-repellent sachets. After cleaning the room, the maid asked again, "Princess, how do we deal with the daffodils and hyacinths in the yard?" The princess said without hesitation, "Move them all out of the yard." Zhang Xiu took out a spray from the medicine box. The eldest master's disease is bronchial dilatation. This disease is most afraid of too much fragrance in the house. Try this, spray once in the morning and once in the evening. It is very useful for relieving the symptoms. There is no laboratory here. Zhang Xiu cannot diagnose which pollen the patient is allergic to. The most important thing at the moment is to eliminate all causes. Xiaokang looked at the rare thing in Zhang Xiu's hand, and a glimmer of hope appeared in his eyes. "Kang try it quickly." "Yes, young master, open your mouth, and I will help you feed you the medicine." Xiao Gaiza was about to take the medicine in Zhang Xiu's hand with both hands. "It's the first time to use the medicine, so it's better for me to demonstrate it," Zhang Xiu said, and explained the method of using the medicine again in detail. When the palace doctor brought a stack of diaries, he saw Zhang Xiu holding something in his hand and spraying it into the eldest master's mouth. "Yes, take a deep breath and hold it, exhale slowly for about 10 breaths, and don't drink water for a quarter of an hour." The palace doctor was also stunned. There were at least 80 doctors in the palace, and this treatment was the first time he had seen it. "Kang do you feel better?" Seeing Xiaokang exhaling slowly, Princess Yanan asked anxiously. "Mother, I feel like my breathing is much smoother." Xiao Gaiza took the spray with both hands and knelt down with a thump. "Thank you, doctor. My master is finally getting better. Get up quickly. This is just relief. The cough will become less. Your master has a chronic disease. If he wants to recover, he has to slowly adjust his condition. It's good that he can recover. Xiao Gaiza will definitely serve the master carefully." Hearing that her son could recover, Princess Yanan cried with joy, "That's great. My Kang can finally recover. Hurry up and tell the prince this good news." The maid behind Princess Yanan bowed her head and said, "Princess forgot that the prince went out to inspect official business. It's not known when he can return to the mansion." Zhang Xiu saw the doctor coming back, and she walked to the desk in the room. Xiangyang spread out the paper and began to grind the ink with great eyesight. "Miss, look at this diary." The court doctor heard Zhang Xiu talking about bronchiectasis. This word was not recorded in medical books. He was not sure whether his diary could still help. "Give it to me." The court doctor was overjoyed. He was looking for an opportunity to discuss the disease with the genius doctor. "To be honest, miss, I have diagnosed tuberculosis with many doctors. This bronchiectasis is the first time I have heard of it." Zhang Xiu took the diary and flipped through it for a while. "Well, most of the medicines you use are expectorants and cough relievers. The general direction is correct, but..." The court doctor bowed and said, "Miss, please speak frankly. I understand that learning is endless. As long as the young master's illness can be cured, it will be fine. During the onset of bronchiectasis, phlegm accumulates in the lungs. These prescriptions only treat the symptoms and not the root cause. They can only relieve the symptoms. If you want to cure it completely, you have to prescribe a decoction that nourishes the yin and lungs, nourishes the lungs, and strengthens the foundation. Especially pay attention to the environment, Pollen incense can be a trigger. After listening to it, the doctor bowed to Zhang Shiyu and said, after listening to the young lady's words, I suddenly realized where the spray can be bought. Zhang Shiyu had already thought of the words, and she said lightly, the spray was purchased from a Hu merchant. The doctor wanted to ask something else, but when he saw Zhang Shiyu pick up the pen and concentrate on writing the prescription, he swallowed the words that were on his lips. Warm Ti. After being expelled from the palace, she returned with her cup and amazed the whole city. Author, Hanggu. Chapter 40. After writing the prescription, Zhang Shiyu handed it to the doctor. The blood-streaked sputum in the young master's cough is caused by inflammation in the lungs. This is an anti-inflammatory prescription. After taking 3 doses in a row, the inflammation is under control, and naturally there will be no symptoms, fever and cough. Xiaokong secretly clicked his tongue after hearing this, thinking that he was really a miracle doctor. Even the people waiting around him didn't know that he had a fever last night. This girl didn't even touch his skin, but she actually knew that he had a fever. Zhang Shiyu wrote 3 prescriptions in total, each of which was used at different stages of the disease. The palace doctor of the palace is still a somewhat capable person. With Zhang Shiyu's instructions, the palace doctor understood how to use medicine and perform daily maintenance. The palace doctor put away the prescription and asked, can the girl come back to the palace in 2 days for a follow-up consultation with the eldest young master? Zhang Shiyu looked back at Princess Yanan, who was tucking the eldest young master into bed, and felt an inexplicable emotion in her heart. She stood up, take the medicine for a few days first. If your pulse is different, you can send someone to the hospital to find me. The implication is that she will not come to the palace frequently for follow-up consultations. Girl, please stay. As soon as Zhang Shiyu stood up, the princess walked quickly to her side. The princess waved her hand, and a maid brought over a brocade box. The princess took the brocade box and took Zhang Shiyu's jade white hand. This is the intention of the prince and I hope the girl will accept it. Zhang Shiyu quickly retracted her hand, lowered her eyes slightly and said, Princess, don't be anxious. As for the medical fee, we can pay it after the eldest young master is well. Looking at that familiar face, Zhang Shiyu felt inexplicably panicked. Seeing Zhang Shiyu take a step back, Nanggong Ziyu quickly picked up the medical box and bowed to the princess with Zhang Shiyu to say goodbye. Looking at the figure who was leaving in a hurry, the princess said to the maid beside her, in 3 days, if the young master shows signs of improvement, he will send the reward to Jishi Hall. It is said that money moves people's hearts, but this girl is not in a hurry to get paid, which shows that she has a noble character and high medical ethics. Girl, wait a minute, the princess offered you a reward, why did you refuse? Xiangyang quickly chased after her. It won't be too late for your eldest young master's condition to improve before he accepts the medical treatment. Zhang Shiyu suddenly remembered those pairs of phoenix eyes and the familiar face. She paused slightly, looked back at Xiangyang and asked, seeing how nervous the princess is about the young master, the princess must be a loving mother. I don't know how many young masters the princess has. Speaking of the princess, Xiangyang looked respectful, not many, just the eldest young master, the prince, and 2 young ladies. Your eldest son is busy with official duties, so he must go to the capital from time to time, Zhang Shiyu asked around. The girl is right. The prince has to personally deliver tax money to the capital every other year. I also followed the master to the capital a few years ago. When Xiangyang is not nervous, he speaks very neatly. Zhang Shiyu's heart skipped a beat. If it's not the eldest young master, there is no doubt that it is only the prince. The prince's family has few heirs, and it would be terrible if the prince sees him every year. Thinking of this, she quickened her pace and walked out. There is an uncle in the hospital, Miss Zhang, there is no need to worry. Seeing her walking so fast, Nanggong Ziyu thought it was Zhang Shiyu who was in a hurry to return to the hospital. Zhang Shiyu had no time to appreciate the beautiful scenery of the palace and quickly walked out of the palace gate. Xiang Yang called the palace's carriage and personally drove the two of them back to the hospital. Outside the city, Xiao Jingzhao looked at the increasing number of refugees. He said to the officials responsible for resettling the refugees, disperse the resettlement, gather young and strong laborers to build houses, and do not withhold wages and food. Once discovered, severe punishment will not be neglected. Xiao Jingzhao's expression was serious and cold, and he spoke loudly. All the officials were excited and quickly knelt down to accept the order. When I finish my official duties, the sun sets over the sky and melts gold. Xiao Jingzhao and his party returned home. As soon as he entered the gate, Xiang Yang greeted him. Master, go and see the eldest young master quickly. The doctor from Jishi Hall came to see you today. She said that the eldest young master can recover. Really? I don't dare to say anything false, Xiang Yang said quickly. Xiao Jingzhao took off his black cloak as he walked. Master, Xiang Yang Gang wanted to tell his master to slow down, but his vision went dark and the cloak fell from the sky. By the time he took off the cloak, Xiao Jingzhao's figure had disappeared at the end of the corridor. No need to follow, let's go back to the courtyard and prepare hot water for the master. Seeing Xiang Yang standing there with a confused look on his face, Xiang Song walked towards Qinghui courtyard without saying a word. Hey! You haven't said anything about what happened outside the city today? Why did the master go out in such a hurry? Xiang Yang carefully held the cloak in his arms and quickly caught up with Xiang Song. It's not a matter of refugees. The emperor is stupid and incompetent. A large number of refugees are flocking to Yan'an. There are no less than 50,000 people just outside Luoyang city. There are so many refugees, what should we do? Speaking of this, Xiang Yang and Xiang Song both sweated for their master. The refugees have just arrived, and the newly cultivated land will not be harvested for half a year. During this half year, they all rely on the palace to buy food to tide them over. In order to inspect the situation of resettlement of refugees by officials everywhere, King Yan'an has not returned to the palace for half a month. In Xiaozuxuan, Xiaokong had already taken a bowl of decoction. There was no scent of flowers in the room. He occasionally coughed a few times. Compared with the lung pain when he woke up in the morning, his condition was significantly improved. Xiao Jingzhao rushed to Xiaozuxuan like a gust of wind. When he reached the door, he slowed down again, as if he was afraid of walking too fast and bringing in the wind outside. Brother, how are you feeling? Ahem, second brother, don't worry, the medicine prescribed by the doctor is effective, my cough is not so severe anymore. Xiao Kong saw Xiao Jingzhao walk into the room, and he wanted to sit up from his half-lying body. Seeing this, Xiao Gaiza stepped forward to help him up, picked up the pillow and placed it behind his master. Hello, second young master, today the female doctor brought a Hu people's medicine, and the eldest young master is obviously much better. Xiao Gaiza bowed to Xiao Jingzhao and waited on the side. Xiao Jingzhao stepped forward and sat on the edge of the bed, watching his pale elder brother smile at him, and his worries did not decrease. What Hu people's medicine? Bring it to me. Xiao Gaizi opened the drawer and carefully took out the spray. Xiao Jingzhao took the medicine and looked at it over and over again, and then took it under his nose and sniffed it. Looking at the densely packed small characters on it again, they were all missing arms and legs. Xiao Jingzhao handed the medicine back to Xiao Gaizi and told her, keep it. Since the medicine from Jishitang is useful, use it here and then send someone to get it. You have to go. The princess gave the doctor a reward today, but she didn't take it. She said it won't be too late to take it after the master sees that he is better. Xiao Gaiza was talking excitedly when Zionko and Luer came back with dinner. Does the second young master want to eat here? I'll bring some wine and food to the second young master. Zionko put down the tray in her hand and asked. Xiao Jingzhao said lightly, no need. Dinner was a few light side dishes and a bowl of red dates, lotus seeds, and white fungus soup. Xiao Jingzhao stood aside and watched his elder brother finish his meal. He stood up and said, "Brother, take a rest first. I'll come to see you tomorrow. Second brother, you should also take a rest early. Don't be too tired." Xiao Kan couldn't help his father, and he was also very anxious. As soon as Xiao Jingzhao walked out of the room, he heard Xiao Gai's voice behind him. "Master, I think that miracle doctor is a fairy. Look, she has a beauty mole between her eyebrows. Don't fairies in books look like that?" Xiao Jingzhao stumbled.